Hello, hi there. Welcome to IFL-SC Global Academy. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Je suis le professeur Marie. I am Marie, and I'm honored to have you on this channel again today. Do you want to know how education can be the bedrock or the foundation of sustainable development for you and for me, for Africa? What is education in the first place? Okay, and how can we use education to equip the African continent, and what kind of education is even useful for us today? Because education is very broad, but which one will be very useful to you and very useful to Africa as well? Okay, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. For those of you who do not know me, okay, I'm an expert in biomedical translation, communication, languages, and diplomacy. And I was born to serve God and humanity. And for me to serve humanity, I created what I call my mission, my vision, which I call the Great Agenda. Great Agenda, just like great, G-R-E-A-T. And G stands for gender equality, for reality into action. Of course, E stands for education and empowerment. A stands for action for climate. And T, training for the future. I'm very passionate about training and education. Now, I asked you earlier, do you want an education that will change your life? Why is education always referred to as the foundation for sustainable development? And what kind of education is even good for you and for me? Okay, before we continue, you have to do something for me. Click the button below, subscribe to my YouTube channel, join the community where we make an impact into the world. Don't forget to like, comment, give us a thumbs up, because we're doing a very great job to humanity on this channel. We educate, we teach, and we show the pathway for others to follow. We are role models, and my entire team is made up of people who I can boast of to be role models. So please like and make a comment. Now let's look at, first of all, how education can serve as a bedrock for sustainable development. And for us to do that, we're going to look at it in the light of the 4 SDGs that we always look at on this channel. The first one is SDG 3, which of course represents good health and well-being. SDG 4, quality education. SDG 5, gender equality. And 13, climate action. Now, according to common sense, if you know what something is not, then you automatically know what it is. So sometimes to define a word, you have to look at what it is not. Then you now know what it is. So what education is not? Education is not just about literacy and numeracy. The fact that one can read and write does not mean that that person is educated. No. Yes, it is a part of it, but it's not all. So what is education? Now that we've seen what education is not, what is it? Education is a transformative force that drives social progress, economic growth, environmental sustainability. What do I mean by that? Which means that if you can read and write, which is good, and you cannot drive social progress, you cannot drive economic transformation, you cannot grow your environment, you cannot achieve environmental sustainability, then you can as well be called uneducated, even though you can read and write. Which means education has to encompass all of that. Yes, you should be able to read and write, you should be literate, you should be able to count, but you should be able to affect social change, to affect economic change, it should be able to take care of the environment sustainably. Now, how can education now influence this, and why is it key for the future of Africa? It's very, very key. We've seen it, that education is really the bedrock for development. That's why it's very key. Now, let's look at another area, education for good health and well-being. It's very important. Education plays a direct role in improving health outcomes. Yes, healthy or educated people are usually very healthy. Better. They have a better health compared to uneducated people. Health literacy empowers individuals to make informed decisions about what they eat, the hygiene, and the disease prevention. When people are educated, they are well educated, the population will know. They make choices, informed choices, because they've studied about what they eat, the hygiene, and of course how to prevent diseases. And a well-educated population leads to a stronger healthcare system with more trained health professionals, lower child and maternal mortality rates, and better responses to pandemic and health crisis. Let's look at Africa, for instance. In Africa, investments in medical education and public health training are vital for the progress of Africa in major health challenges. Because some health challenges that have been dealt with in other climes are still major health challenges in Africa. Take malaria. Malaria is still a very big problem in Africa with thousands of deaths every day per second. Now, HIV/AIDS has been dealt with in many places, but Africa is still a huge problem. Maternal and child mortality is still a major issue with rates very high. So I've seen in Africa how you see a difference between mortality rate in men and women, that the difference could just be their level of education. You know, when you study educated population and uneducated population, you look at the mortality rate, you can see that the difference could just be that, you know, others are better educated. That's why their mortality rate is reduced. Now, education can be a catalyst for change. When we look at SDG 4, SDG 4 looks at inclusive, equitable, quality education for all. That's what SDG 4 looks at. So which means that a strong educational system equips the young people, equips the girls, equips the women with skills they need to participate in the global economy. However, it's sad to say that in many parts of Africa today, a lot of African countries, challenges such as inadequate infrastructure, lack of trained teachers, limited access to digital resources still hinder a lot of progress. So we've heard that recently there's an emphasis on investing in STEM education, science and tech, vocational training, and digital learning. There's a lot of emphasis on it now. Why? Because if African countries invest in these areas, STEM education, vocational training, digital learning, they can unlock the potential of their youth. You know that a lot of young people are into innovation, technology. So Africa should look into that and invest into those areas so that they can unlock the potential of their youth and foster innovation-driven economies. Because when you travel to the West, you travel to America and other countries, you see that the development gap between those societies and Africa is still very wide. So if Africa just has to follow the conventional way of developing, it will take us another 100 or 200 years to become like France or the US or Italy. So, but if we look at the STEM education, we look at the way technology is developing, our young people are interested in technology, and put in a lot more investment, we will be closing the education gap and even the development gap faster than what it is. So we are doing it already here in our academy, IFL-SC Global Academy. We educate the women, especially the girls. We focus on the girls through acquisition of foreign languages. You know, we train them, we teach them French, we teach them German, Russian, Spanish, Chinese, and even the local languages, so that through those languages they can be empowered, irrespective of what their vocation is or their skill is or their education. Don't look at the level of education or their training. We have a lot of learners who are students in the medical education, some are engineers, some are in all kinds of fields. We believe that irrespective of your field, the acquisition of an additional language to your training gives you that global perspective, which we want to give our people, because there are so many medical doctors in the world today, but one stands out if they can add to their medical training French, German, Russian. Imagine a medical doctor or a nurse even that can speak not just English but has German, Russian, Spanish as an addition. Automatically that nurse becomes an international or a global nurse. So you can see that in our own way here in IFL-SC, we're trying to, in our own little way, how to improve the health of these women through education, with the women and young girls that we have on this program, and one of the boys as well. A lot of them have been empowered. We have empowered their lives. Their lives have changed through IFL-SC Global Academy. I think we should show you a few of our activities in the video that is coming up. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Alors, avec Inspire Innovation, Marie-Thérèse, Dr Marie-Thérèse, soyez la bienvenue. En même temps, une introduction simple. Alors, Marie-Thérèse Taïdoué est une personne de très haute personnalité de cet État ou alors de cette université. Elle est la personne en charge elle est la PRO de cette université, Public Relations Officer de cette université. Et en plus, pour vous choquer, c'est elle qui a initié l'Institut des langues étrangères, c'est-à-dire cet institut, c'est elle qui a initié.
Okay, welcome back. Now let's look at SDG 5 education and gender equality. Education, like we said, is the most powerful tool for achieving gender equality. When girls receive quality education, they are less likely to be married off at a young age. I mean, that's just the truth. They are more likely to participate in the workforce and better position to contribute to decision making at all levels of the society. When girls are not educated, it's very easy for parents to just marry them off. That has been happening a lot in African countries. In Nigeria, for instance, where we have cases where we've had young girls who didn't go to school and are married off at 12, 13, 14, 15. Whereas if they're in school, by the time they finish secondary school and get into university, maybe at 16, 17, before they graduate, they are of maturity age. Even if after graduation they start to get married, then we know they are 21 and above, which is fine, which is okay. But if they are not educated, if they don't go to school, it's easy for parents for them to just get pregnant or for parents to just marry them off. So it's very important. However, millions of girls in Africa are still facing barriers to education. A lot of them due to so many problems like poverty. You know, some families you look at, they can't even have 3 square meals a day, and then you're telling them to send girls to school when they can't feed. Becomes difficult due to poverty, and some due to cultural norms. The culture says, okay, prioritize the boy, and then the girls should help at home. But another thing is happening in Africa this day, which is notable, especially in the east of Nigeria. We now have a situation where the boys are now the ones not going to school because the parents send them off to their uncles, to relatives, to work at a tender age, to learn a trade. And then you find them in shops, in businesses, learning a trade at a very young age from 10. So it's no longer just a girl child problem, it's now also a boy child problem, and we are looking out for those situations, so that we don't, in trying to have gender equality, we now begin to neglect the boys. Nobody says that our boys are not important. Men and women are very important in society. It's just that for a long time, the girls were neglected and the women were neglected. So society was trying to balance the equation, now decided to focus on the girl child, and now you begin to see that in some places the boy child now begins to also suffer and begins to be neglected. So we have to be careful not to neglect a gender, because all genders are very, very useful and important. Now, closing the gender gap in education will lead to economic prosperity. Very important. Closing the gender gap will lead to economic prosperity, improved health outcomes, and very strong communities. At this point, I'll ask you to drop a comment. What do you think? How can we have a better education in Africa? What's your own view? Go to the comment section below and tell me what you think. What kind of education is suitable for Africa, for our children, for our young boys and young girls? What is the education for the future? Do you have ideas? Is it technology? Is it science? Is it innovation? What do you think? Please drop your comments below and we'll look at it. Now let's look at education for climate change. Climate change poses a very significant threat to Africa's development, with the rising temperatures, extreme weather events, environmental degradation, which affects millions. So how can education now play a role? Education plays a crucial role in climate action, because through education, people become more aware, people innovate and make sustainable practices. So integrating climate education into the school curricula can empower the next generation, because the next generation can now be inspired to develop stronger solutions to sustainable agriculture, to renewable energy, to environmental conservation. So it's very important, because a well-educated population is Africa's greatest asset. Remember, Africa has a very large youth population. So that population has to be well educated. And when we say on this channel, when we say educated, we're not just saying the ability to read and write, the ability to affect social change, economic change, and environmental sustainability is what we call education as well. By strengthening the educational system, Africa can drive economic growth, can reduce inequalities, can enhance gender balance, can even work against global challenges. So we call on governments, the private sector, the civil society to collaborate, work together. A lot of NGOs are doing a lot of work, a lot of individuals are doing work. Government is also trying its best but they must collaborate so that we can improve access, affordability, and quality education for all. Investing in teachers, investing in infrastructure, building laboratories, digital learning laboratories will ensure that Africa does not just follow the global development agenda, but we want Africa to actually lead the global development agenda. So education is the cornerstone for sustainable development. And here on this channel, we know that prioritizing learning at all levels, we can achieve SDG 3, SDG 4, SDG 5, SDG 13, while paving the way for Africa's transformation. On IFL-SC Academy, we are here committed to fostering meaningful discussion, providing insightful resources, advocating for policies that promote education and sustainable development. And so we want to say thank you for joining us today. If you found this discussion valuable, like, don't just like, subscribe, don't just subscribe, but share so that your friends also can stay updated to our latest content. I'm always Marie, je suis le professeur Marie, your global health, quality education, gender and climate advocate. I'll see you in our next episode. Until then, stay inspired and keep learning. Bye for now. Try